This is mostly for Lucy because there are a lot of pictures and not so many words in this. It's about Curious George. Lucy, you probably know about Curious George. Acadia, you too, if you're listening. Curious George is a little monkey. Little monkeys are kind of like little kids sometimes. Look at that cute face. This is the man with the yellow hat. And the man with the yellow hat is reading a bedtime story to Curious George. It's about dinosaurs. Okay. Curious George. Wow. There's Curious George. And the man with the yellow hat is showing him the stars. They're both in their pajamas. Curious George, my bedtime stories. Curious George. Let's see. This is a pretty thick book. I bet we can get through all of it, though, because there are a lot of pictures and not that many words. Curious George, are you curious? This is George. George is a good little monkey and always very curious. That's a good thing, being curious. Do you ever feel like George? See, he wants to try to see what the hat's on. Do you ever feel like George? Do you ever feel happy? There, he's happy. Do you sometimes feel loud, make a lot of noise? Have you ever felt scared? Oh, he's got picked up by the balloons. He's got a scared look on his face. Or hurt or proud? All of these are emotions. Do you ever feel sick or dizzy? Or are you sometimes sad or silly? I bet you're silly a lot. Little girls are silly a lot. It's good for them to be silly. Have you ever felt so naughty? Oh, there's George. He's making a lot of trouble. All the firemen are chasing him. Have you ever felt so naughty that you needed a timeout? Timeout. You got to sit by yourself for a while because you've been naughty. Been making a lot of whining. We don't like whining, do we, girls? No whining. Are you mischievous? Mischievous? Are you curious? Do you ever feel like George? This is Curious George and the Firefighters. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George and the man with the yellow hat were on a field trip to the fire station. Here we go. The fire chief was waiting for them right next to the big red fire truck. Welcome, he said, and he led everyone upstairs to begin their tour. See, there's George. There's a man with a yellow hat. They're going to have a tour of the fire station. George was curious about everything in the fire station. He slid down the pole. There was a great big fire truck and a whole wall full of coats, hats, and big black boots. George tried on a pair of boots. Next, he picked out a helmet. And finally, George put on a jacket. He was a firefighter. Suddenly, bring, 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 bring. There's an alarm that sounds. Suddenly, see, there's an alarm bell. Suddenly, the alarm sounds. The firefighters rushed in and jumped onto the fire truck. And so did George. The truck went fast to get to the fire. Woo, 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 went the whistle, and George held on tight. There's George. He's hanging on to the side. They're going to the fire. Pizza parlor. The fire was at a pizza parlor on Main Street. Smoke was coming out of the window in the back, and a crowd was gathering in the street. Firefighters rushed off the truck and started unwinding their hose. They knew just what to do, and George was ready to help. Together, they put out the fire as quick as can be. Hurrah! There's George. He's helping to unspool the hose. Before long, the fire truck was back at the fire station where a familiar voice called, "George!" It was a man with a yellow hat. "The little monkey had quite an adventure," said one of the firefighters. For a final treat, all of the children got to take a ride around the neighborhood on the shiny red fire truck. What a brave little monkey. Curious George, a day at the farm. Okay, this is the next story. They're at the farm today. Today, George and the man with the yellow hat are visiting the Jackson family farm. There's so much to explore and many animals to meet. George is going to have lots of fun. Oh, look at the animals. There's a chicken, there's a pig, there's little butterflies flying around, there's a windmill, there's a barn. Millie the cow is ready to be milked, and George is going to help. But Mr. Jackson needs his stool to sit on and his pail to catch the milk. George will fill the bottles. Can you find the things they need? Okay, well, there's a stool, there's a bottle, and there's the bucket. Those are the things they're going to need. Okay, next, George will gather eggs in the hen house. Did you know that's where eggs come from? They come from chickens. Chickens make the eggs in the hen house. There are hens and chicks everywhere. Cheep, cheep, say the chicks. George is curious. How many eggs will he find? Can you count the eggs and the chicks too? Oh, there are too many of them to count. I see a mouse back there. There's a mouse. He's coming in for an egg. Maybe the mouse likes eggs. Who's ready for a snack? George is. But he helps Mr. Jackson feed the other animals first. There's hay for the horse. There's milk for the lamb, slop for the pigs, and some water for Sparky. Sparky, that's the lamb, maybe. Oh, that's Sparky the dog. That's George feeding the lamb. And of course, milk to the lamb. And of course, the perfect treat for George, a banana cream pie. There it is, a banana cream pie. When snack time is over, George and Mr. Jackson harvest a rainbow of vegetables. Carrots, beans, lettuce, celery, potatoes, cauliflower, and more. Which colors does George see? Oh, red, blue, yellow, green, brown, white, lots of colors. It's a very colorful farm. George ends his day with a bouncy, bumpy hayride out to the pumpkin patch. He and Sparky pick out the biggest pumpkin they can find for George to take home. What a wonderful day at the farm. Now, the next story is Curious George Goes to a Bookstore. I don't know, it's been a long time since you girls been to a bookstore. I bet they don't have bookstores in Rwanda that little kids go to. So maybe you'll do this in your future, but they're going to a bookstore where they have books, like the one I'm reading, a book. Today, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were going to the grand opening of a bookstore in their neighborhood. George looked around the bookstore. So many books. What stories would they hold inside? What funny characters would he meet? Oh, he's all curious about the books. George saw a giant display of science books. It was hard to resist for a little monkey who loves to climb. Oh, he's climbing up on the books. What's going to happen now? I bet he's going to knock them off. From higher up, George saw a crowd gathered around a table. George was curious. The crowd was waiting to meet the author of the Penny the Penguin books. Penny the Penguin. Okay, the author is coming. There's books called Penny the Penguin, and the author of those books is coming to the bookstore. George wanted to meet her too. George joined the long line. Okay, there's a line of people wanting to meet the author of Penny the Penguin. And finally, it was George's turn. The manager asked George if he would like to help with the signing. George was delighted. So the author is going to autograph the books. That's what they do sometimes. An author will come to a bookstore, and if you buy their book, they'll sign it for you. And then you'll have an original signed copy of the book that they actually wrote. George made sure each book was open to the right page, ready for the author's signature. As she finished signing the last book, the author turned to George and smiled. "Thank you so much for all of your help today. Would you like for me to sign your book too?" George did. He loved his new book. It was special and one of a kind. He had had such a fun day at the bookstore, he couldn't wait to visit again. Penny the Penguin. I wonder if that's a real book or that's make-believe. I'll look. Next time I'm at the library and I have time, I'll look to see if I can find any Penny the Penguin books. Maybe it's next to the Peppa the Pig books. You would think maybe Penny, Peppa, they should be next to each other. They both start with P-E. Okay, we're look at this. We're a little bit more than halfway through. Maybe we have one story or two stories left in this book, which is about our friend Curious George. This says, Curious George loves to ride. This is George. He is a good little monkey and always very curious. George loves to go places and is always ready to ride off on an adventure. What do you think George rides around his room? He rides a ball. Don't you try this at home, girls. Monkeys can stand on top of a ball that way and kind of ride it around, but it's hard for little girls to do. What does George ride at the circus? Okay, what is he? That's a circus costume. So what does George ride at the circus? I don't know. A bicycle. There's George. He's riding a bicycle around on the back wheel, blowing a horn. What will George ride to get downtown? That's an ostrich, by the way. I don't know if you've seen an ostrich before. There's a little baby bear riding the ostrich. This is a circus. You've probably never been to a circus. You've seen lots of animals, but you've probably never been to a circus. That's something to look forward to. That'll be a lot of fun. A taxi cab. Okay, he's riding a taxi cab. And here he's riding a subway train. A subway train goes underground. There's George. He's putting his quarter in so he can get in the turnstile. It's called a turnstile. Just walk through there, put your quarter in, walk through, get on the train, and off you go. Okay, and it says George likes to ride the bus. Wow, look at all these buses. Okay, where's George in this picture? We got to find... Oh, there he is, right there. See George? There's George. I have a hard time finding him. There's so much going on in this picture. Wow, look at all these buses. It's a busy city. People out walking their dogs, walking their kids, walking their babies. Look at these dogs over here. So much going on in this picture. Looks like somebody in a uniform on a motorcycle there. Wow. Bookstore. Here we go. How does George ride high up in the sky? He hangs from balloons. There's George. He grabbed onto some balloons, and now he's flying through the air, and he looks a little bit scared. So how does he go up in the sky? He hangs onto balloons. He glides on a kite. Now the kite has pulled him away. He also looks a little bit scared. I don't think he likes to fly that much. And sometimes he rides in a helicopter. Okay, the man with the yellow hat rescued him. He flew by and pulled him off the kite. That's a helicopter. But when George is ready to go home, okay, he's leaving the circus. See the ostrich, the kangaroo, the baby bear. George is ready to go home. He rides in the little blue car with his friend, the man in the yellow hat. Okay, he's going home from the circus, and he's riding in his yellow car with the man with the yellow hat. Goodbye, George. Okay, this is the last story in the book. I've enjoyed the story so far. Oh, it's nighttime. There's the dinosaur, and there's George with a ball. Okay, the name of the story is Good Night, Curious George. George has had a long, fun day of jumping, climbing, monkey play. Now the sun is setting, sleepyhead. Pick up those toys. It's time for bed. Time for bed, sleepyhead. Oh, this rhymes. George has had a long, fun day of jumping, climbing, monkey play. Now sun is setting, sleepyhead. Pick up those toys. It's time for bed. So this is poetry. I'll try to read it that way. And what is George doing here? Yeah, that's right, taking a bath. First, we fill the tub right up with soap and water, rubber duck. A bubbly bath cleans monkey toes, belly, arms, back, and nose. Bubbly. Getting all clean, including his nose. His jammies there. Cozy things help George sleep tight all the way through the night. striped pajamas, soft to wear, comfy slippers, cuddly bear. Comfy slippers, cuddly bear. Oh, look at that. George is having a little late night snack consisting of 3 bananas. Got a good appetite. George sleeps best with a full tummy. He wants something yellow and yummy. A bedtime snack. Not too sweet. 2 more bites. Then brush those teeth. There he is. He's in his pajamas, getting ready to go to bed. The man with the yellow hat's reading him a story. Here we go. Done with running, playing, and leaping. Now it's time to think about sleeping. One more story. Sing a song. He's yawning now. It won't be long. He's yawning. Oh, I'm going to sleep. With cozy sheets and his soft teddy, Sleepy George is finally ready. Under the covers, turn out the light. Sleep well, little monkey. Sweet dreams. Good night. George is done for the day. The end. That's the story of Curious George. A lot of stories, actually. And there are more. I'll try to find some more Curious George stories for you. I enjoy reading them. All right, that's all for now, girls. Bye-bye.